All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at Unified MMA 46, and that goes on September the 23rd. It is a lightweight bout between Tim Smith and Tom O'Connor, and happy to be welcoming Tom back onto the show and chopping it up a little bit. How's everything going, man? How's your day going so far?
Yeah, it's going really good. I'm up in Calgary right now, so I was just training with Anderson Goncalves at Anderson Goncalves Jiu-Jitsu. And yeah, so, hard to have a bad day when you're training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, you love it in a lot of regards, it seems. Like I was seeing the picture of you teaching at, Progressive Fighting Academy a little bit ago, too. So it seems like you really enjoy imparting the technique, but always, building upon the understanding further and further.
Yeah, and one of the things, I think that is just martial arts in general, but it is part of the foundation of jiu-jitsu, is that jiu-jitsu makes you a better version of yourself, a better person, be able to help the community more. And so, even today we're doing it, and great instruction again from Anderson. And then at the end of the rolling in session, we all take turns and we mop the floor, clean up the gym, because the gym is your home. Just like the earth and the planet is our home, so we should take care of it. And so that's one thing I love about jiu-jitsu and I think it's like any martial art taught properly, but it's definitely right at the heart of jiu-jitsu is, it's supposed to make you a better version of yourself, be able to help the community, help others around you. So yeah.
Well, it's a really beautiful way to look at it, man. I totally can understand where you're coming from in that regard. And I always found, not that I have a great deal of experience with it, but when I trained way back in the day, I always felt it gave a healthy kind of interfacing with failure, just seeing it as a building block to just getting better at what you're doing, sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. I always say this is I'm a little bit biased, of course, right? But I think jiu-jitsu, especially grappling and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and back in the day, pancreas, where people, that's just the first thing you learn to do is you're training your kids, boy or girl, kids play wrestling. That's just how you learn to interact with the world. And I always say I'm biased, but I think that jiu-jitsu is the best metaphor for life in any regard. And you said it right there. That's one of the best things is the relationship that you have with failure, where we hear this saying in MMA a lot, win or learn. You don't win or you lose. If you learn from it, then it's a win-win, right? So you can't really ever lose as long as you have that mentality of learning. And jiu-jitsu is such a good example of that, because it's literally, you can't go to the gym without failing. If you went to the gym and didn't fail, then I'd say you probably need to be at a different class or taught a different way, or, that's the whole game is constant failure. Even techniques that work, it's this works well. This is what I was talking about in jiu-jitsu last night, is where, the timing of two moves doesn't mean one move is better or worse than the other, but sometimes the practitioner that's using it uses their move with a better timing and cadence than you do, so that move beats you in that case. But for example, the Darce versus the underhook, right, is sometimes you sit up with an underhook and someone darces you. It doesn't mean the underhook was a bad idea. It means that your timing of it wasn't as good as the other person's timing of the Darce. Right, so I think that's a cool thing in jiu-jitsu for sure.
Yeah, for sure, coming at it from the high-level kinetic chess kind of viewpoint as well, and it seems like you've always looked at MMA through that kind of fight IQ-minded sort of lens as well. I feel like that's one of the bigger attributes one can have as a fighter, just that intelligence and implementing the technique well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good point. It's just playing the chess game, right? Because at the highest level, that's what they are. That's what we're all doing. You're playing the chess game. You can't assume that you know anything about the opponent or not. You can look at all the footage, you can train and emulate it as much as possible, but they still might do a move that you don't expect. So you have to be prepared for that and how to adapt to that. But then right back to the game plan of how do I get one move ahead? That's really what it is being one move ahead of them.
Yeah, I love the depth of insight. It's very, enticing for a fight nerd like myself. But you mentioned being in Calgary a bit earlier there, and historically I've known you to be in Calgary a bit for sure, but also training in Lethbridge. Are you splitting time between the two cities for this one, or mostly in Calgary? Or
I'm still, the majority of my training is at Lethbridge at Progressive Fighting Academy, and I'm really always grateful to have a lot of the guys from Canadian Martial Arts Center, a lot of those guys that are competitive fighters and same thing on that pursuit of leveling up, they're coming over and training with me and helping me a lot too. And we're just in a room where we're trying to make everyone better, and you need good guys and good athletes, good guys and girls to do that. So that's one thing is awesome having them over there. But then for Calgary, it's the same thing. I get out to Anderson's as much as I can because my jiu-jitsu lineage is under him. He's who I'm belted under, and so I like the same thing. Make sure that I'm staying connected to that lineage of jiu-jitsu, and on top of that, it's elite. It's really high quality training, so you can't beat that. You can't leave that place without getting better. Like, you can't go there and leave without being better than you walked in. So I love that kind of environment. And then I also have been coming up to Calgary for Dynamic MMA, and same thing, they really help me out a lot too. Their training, it's just, again, a really good room full of people that are all on that goal of getting better, 1% better every day. Make sure the whole group of us are learning, improving, and getting better. And so I love that. And whenever I get a catch, I get to learn a lot from Clay Davids to do. I thought I'd better give a quick shout out to him because that guy has taught me a ton as well. And he's not with a specific gym or not, but anytime I get to train with him has been insane and always great. So, but most of it's been in Lethbridge.
Yeah, I mean, two just amazing fight towns, and you talk about, like, on the jiu-jitsu end, you've had, like, a consistent level of learning from, like, the same kind of individual. Like, I feel like that connectivity exists to a degree with Brad Wall as well. Like, he seems like just such an amazing Muay Thai kind of mind. Like, I feel like you'd be under the learning tree with a guy like that in a lot of regards.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I would say is my jiu-jitsu lineage comes from Joe Moreira, Anderson Goncalves, and then I do a lot of work with Scott Ward, who's out of Progressive Fighting Academy. And so it's all this, very technical, tight game. And then on the flip side with Muay Thai, it's the same thing. It's like, just what works very best, kind of cut the fat type thing is what is the most efficient way to move, the best timing, or best energy systems, best everything for that particular situation. And so that's what Brad, like you said, that's what Brad does with Muay Thai. Is he is very knowledgeable in Muay Thai, and so we're always grinding in that as well. And that's my lineage under him, is being belted under Brad Wall for Muay Thai.
Yeah, I always love seeing whenever he posts, like, old fight highlights from back in the day. It's just, like, it's so funny. Like, the proficient, like, he'll just, like, he'll just, like, lobotomize a guy borderline, and it's like, oh, you're, like, the nicest guy. It's, like, a funny kind of contrast almost. But there's a lot of people like that in martial arts, I guess.
Yeah, you see all different. Oh, that's the coolest thing, isn't it? It's all these different walks of life, and you see someone who's a nice guy and he's as tough as nails. You see someone who's trying to mean mug and he's a big softy, and like you see all groups of people, right? Which is awesome. That's why we love this sport, I think, is it brings everybody. It can bring everybody together. You go into a jiu-jitsu gym, there's a doctor that's training hard, and there's a teacher that's training hard, and there's an MMA fighter that's training hard, and they're all going with each other, trying to take each other's heads off, and then they still walk out of the gym giving high fives and hugs. It's such a cool environment for that. And that's what I tell people when they're not, nervous to get into martial arts or something. They're, a little bit afraid, but have always wanted to. Is like that first step's the most difficult step, but you will never regret it. You go into a good gym with good people, and you won't ever regret it, because you make sure you're in a good gym because you want to be taken care of. You shouldn't go in there and be leaving injured every night. That's a bad mentality. But as long as you're at a good gym, I just can't see many negatives. I just see benefits all around it. Even we got a few athletes that are older, and they say, like, same thing, is just the cerebral game plan of it, where you're having to think, but there's still such a physical capability side of it, but you're having to do the positions and be in the chess game that we talked about. So it's such a good thing for aging and keeping the mind young and keeping the body young, as long as you're not getting injured. That's the caveat.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's all about having that good, positive gym culture for sure. And I mean, Lethbridge, very much known for a pair of reputable gyms. And like you mentioned, like some of the CMC work earlier, I feel like the timing of that is pretty good. I mean, those guys always seem busy, but just with like the Rumble and the Cage card coming up relatively soon, I would think there's like...
Dude, it's just full stacked, just top to bottom. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it looks great. I wish I was in the Lethbridge area, or at least in closer proximity for sure. But yeah, got to get out there and see another Rumble show real soon. But just kind of talking about this.
Kind of a throwback, eh?
Yeah, for sure. And there's just something about like the dimensions of the cage. Like I kind of want to ask Lee about that because like I feel like the dimensions of the cage are like very very compact. Like I wonder what the overall finishing rate in Rumble is. It seems like most of the times it ends inside the distance.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you were a bet man, you'd bet the under 2.5 rounds for sure.
Yeah.
I think you'd be pretty smart on your money that way.
Yeah, it's interesting you phrased it in those kind of terms. I feel like you've been getting more into like analysis based kind of stuff lately. Like I think you were doing that a little bit ago with like some of the big like UFC kind of title fights. Does that more speak to just like being a fan of the sport? Is that something you'd like to get more into as you kind of go on with your competitive career, just breaking it down from that kind of perspective?
Yeah, we kind of talked about it last time too a little bit, didn't we? Just about how fun it is to, like doing the interviews and talking in the broadcast side of things and I don't have any goals set. I don't have anything written down where this is something I want to do on sport broadcast or analyzing or breaking things down. More coaching is written down in goals, but I keep all my options open because since joining the sport and being a part of the sport is like it's taken over my life, as you know, and I'm obsessed with it. So I don't write any of those avenues off. I think as we going through MMA and all sports, it's a very honorable thing to see how people exit respectfully. We only have a short time to be able to be at the highest level in the sports and compete at the highest level, and being able to retire and still be able to train and enjoy the sport from outside and still be able to impact the sport from outside, I think is a really I don't know what the word is, but I guess valiant. I think it's a really respectable thing to do, and I think that's something we should talk about more is being able to exit the competitive side but still be involved. And that's one thing you find that's tough for any athlete. We work with hockey athletes at the gym I work at, baseball athletes, football athletes, and they say that's a hard thing for any athlete to do is exiting their sport. You feel like a part of your identity's gone, and I don't think that when I think it's talked about the right way and thought about in the right manner, that there's seasons of life, and once you're done the competitive side, it doesn't mean that that's the end of the journey. And I think because for fighting, it's even another level, right? Is the drug of fighting, the drug of competing and fighting. There's nothing really like it, and so I think you see a lot of athletes and a lot of fighters get caught up in that where they just they want to retire, but they stick it out, take another fight, and they slowly are taking more and more damage that's unnecessary. And what is it for? It's not helping the legacy if you're not able to compete at the highest level anyways. You're not helping the sport grow if you're not able to compete at the highest level anyways. So you could do all of those things from other avenues. So I keep my whole avenues open, and I love breaking down fights and doing the analysis. Like, it's just a fun thing to do as a fan, as an athlete. I think it helps with the knowledge base. The more perspectives, the more angles that you can look at a fight and a fight scenario. I just think it gives you a better understanding of the combat sports we're a part of.
Yeah, it's an awesome way to articulate it, just talking about the seasons of life and everything like that, but some definitely, big competitive moments had and still to be had. But I kind of wanted to talk about the last fight there, just because it had been a little bit since you competed, like just shy of a full calendar year, actually, and you ended up getting the rear naked choke victory and everything like that, got in a bit of time there, the third round stoppage there. How did the overall effort kind of feel there? You got a bit of cage time. Like I said, you ended up getting the finish after being out of the picture for a tiny bit there. Like, how did that moment feel for you?
Yeah, it just felt good to be back in there and be competing again and being around a crowd and everyone cheering, right? No one likes being sidelined for long, and fighting is a weird one because it's not like other sports where we have seasons, so you're not in season, off season like that. So preparing can be up and down like that. Your whole lifestyle can be up and down, up and down, up and down, and so navigating that can be tricky. But when you have a fight, you just get to dial in and focus on the fight and be professional. And so that's what this last camp felt was like. How do I level up my professionalism? Do things even better than I've done them before. Learn from my mistakes I've had in the past, and just kind of same thing we were talking about, just leveling up. 1% better every day. And so that's how that camp went, which I felt was so good for the camp. It felt good to compete, and then the actual fight too. It kind of went as my fights usually go, a little bit of a slow, rough start, getting the rhythm, trying to get their rhythm. And John too, I think, like I was saying, I don't think think it was as much that I was doing anything wrong per se. I just think he was so well prepared. He knew what I was going to do, and I didn't present anything different early on. I still, my style of constant pressure maybe still broke him eventually. But that first round, like, it seemed like he was just really well prepared for me, and I did what he thought I would do. So some of the counters that he landed were just, expected by him and his team. So I thought that was really good of him. And then, just in the second round, coming out and making the adjustment, that was one thing that I felt was really good about that fight, is that I felt at a higher level than I have ever felt before, where I was more aware of how I was in the cage. I was more aware of what my coaches were saying to me and actually able to start trying to apply it in the fight. And so coming into that second round, that was one thing we talked about, is like just a little bit of specifics on the striking, is the moment I see I can pull my cross and let his lead hand drop a little bit, I can explode in over top with that stepping cross like I was, little things like that. And Brad even just saying that, something as simple as like, hey, like, trust your hands. You're getting your hands on them, so let them go a little more and just put your hands on them a little more. And then all of a sudden the striking started to take over a bit. And guess what? That's what opened up the takedowns, of course, right? I was trying to force the takedown so much in the first round, and then Brad giving some great advice, just, circling the right way, using my footwork to get in on my strikes, and getting my hands on John. As soon as I got my hands on him, the takedowns started to accumulate, and that's what really wore him down until breaking for the rear naked choke.
Yeah, it was a great victory for sure, and good to see that you're able to, keep a certain rate of activity, just with this being the second kind of bout you've been able to get in this calendar year. And just, obviously, as we've been talking, a very well-informed kind of guy. He seems like you have a good lay of the land of the Canadian MMA space. I would think you'd be quite familiar with a lad like Shady heading into a fight like this. Is that a fair kind of characterization?
Oh, yeah. It's a really cool and interesting fight for sure this time, just because, like, it's the MMA world in general is a small world, and we cross paths with people all the time and stuff. But I've never had it to this degree where so many people I know have been around Tim Shady and speak highly of him and just talk about him, and I know him, I train him, and I've had like friends too and people I know are like, hey, sorry Tom, I can't pick sides on this one, And so I tell them the same thing, is like, I don't expect you to. Don't pick sides. Me and Tim are going to put on a show, so sit back and enjoy. And like, at the end of the day, when you're a fight fan, is you know what it is, and Tim knows what he's signing up for. I know what I'm signing up for. So let's go to war and just put on an awesome show for the fans and for all of our friends and all the other martial artists that love watching good fights. Like exactly the last Unified, we both fought back to back, right? And so two awesome fights, and I think a lot of the hype that came off that last show is carrying forward into our fight. The whole event is already sold out, fastest sellout in Unified history. So I love hearing that. And it's just like, he's a hometown guy. So I think there's just going to be a really electric energy in the building. And that's what I like. I just want to put on a wicked show, man.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good sort of opponent to be like having that incremental progression against, in a sense. You've obviously fought a lot of great guys, but just someone who's close to 30 fights, a stalwart in the promotion, former lightweight champion under Unified. Like, I would think those aspects are piquing your interest as well, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And just that alone, like the experience he has, he's been through all types of different fights. He's been through tactical fights. He's just been through dog fights, through wars. Like, there's not much he hasn't seen in the terms of how the fight can lay out and go. So he's not going to quit in any moment. Like, you got to finish a guy like that, which is what I plan to do. That's always my game plan. I'm not looking ever to ride out to a decision. I'm looking to go in there and finish the guy. And if I can't do that, I fail anyways. So, yeah, I think just the experience level of him really makes this fight super enticing, as it's going to be a challenge for me. He's tough. He's well-rounded. He has very crisp striking and strong physical athlete, dedicated. He's been through tough things in his life, and that, is something we commonly see give people that extra advantage of being able to weather the storm. And, an MMA fight is tough, yes, but life can be tougher. So that resilience that's built in through that is really a valuable thing that I think he has. And he's a real positive guy too. Like, he has the message he has is positive. So he brings a lot of fans into the sport, and that's what I like to do. Is out of my fighting style is, hey, maybe I can win some new fans, and with putting on a good show and show respect to both athletes. I think that we can all have a lot of good new fans from this fight and move both our careers forward, but I still look to go and finish them.
Yeah, for sure. And you're obviously squarely focused on this fight, but you strike me as like a goal-oriented kind of guy. Like before, you were talking to about keeping certain options open, and you have fought in other promotions like XFC previously. You had fought with a couple of times, I believe. So, like, what is the, I guess, like down the line kind of goal? Like, is the trajectory towards, say, like a Unified MMA lightweight title shot or something like that, or is it just a matter of like good opportunities popping up regardless of like promotional banner and just kind of growing from there?
Yeah, when you look at my goal setting journal and what I write in my goals, it's not as much about the individual organizations, although I'm really grateful and excited to be a part of Unified because I love it's Canada's stomping, Canada's proving ground, you know what I mean? And it's just a huge Canadian show. It gets a lot of coverage, a lot of people see it, so I love that. It's on UFC Fight Pass, so I love that. Like, there's a lot of really great things, and it's just in general, like when you're there as an athlete, it's a really good show. Like, they take care of you. It's just a lot of fun to be on and be a part of. So that side. But as for my goals, it's never specific to the. My goals aren't as much, UFC or like I think it's more about my progression as a martial artist and a person. And as long as I'm leveling up, I want to know that I'm fighting the best. And I keep going up. And Tim Smith is another really tough opponent. He's a game opponent. So I feel like, again, this is MMA for me. I love the sport and I love competing, and that's what it is for me. Is as long as I love it, I'm going to do it. As long as I have that energy and that passion to grind and put all the time in and energy in to put the work in for a fight camp, I'll continue doing it. And because of that, my goals are, just leveling up as a martial artist and a person and getting better. So I see this fight as a level up, a new challenge to test what I'm capable of and show what levels I'm gaining and how much improvements I'm making. Show the world what I'm kind of working on in the gym and being able to show that. So that's the big goal is, showing that there's a progression in my game and that I am evolving and becoming a better martial artist. And then too, it's just being prepared for the opportunity when it comes knocking. You know what I mean? As soon as there's an opportunity, I want to be ready to take it. And that goes back to being a little more active. That's one of my goals. So if you look at my goals journal, like right there is being able to be a little healthier, a little more active, a little more professional in my approach to all of the training and the lifestyle so that I can remain active. And if some opportunity comes up, I can take it and jump at it at a moment's notice type thing. So that's where it is. I like UFC, Unified, One, all these different fight organizations. As long as these opponents are tougher and better, I want to fight the best in the world. And so as long as I'm leveling up my opponents, that's the big thing for me. And then I really love traveling and seeing the world, and I love fighting at home, of course, too. But just opportunities, man, and just being able to grow as a martial artist and a person, and traveling is a part of that for me. So I just keep the door open kind of thing.
And I feel like it's just such an incredible time for martial artists to have like a myriad of opportunities. Like obviously localized to MMA, there's so much going on opportunity wise, but just what different guys can do nowadays with, say, like if they want to go like the combat jiu-jitsu route, or if they want to do some Muay Thai, that seems more prevalent, submission grappling, getting some good shine, even like bare knuckle boxing. Like there's just so many different avenues a martial artist can pursue, it seems.
Yeah, now it's kind of really come to the point right now where you can just be a combat athlete, right? Before, there's not enough attention, especially in maybe more in North America, but where it was, you're either a UFC fighter. Like, it wasn't even MMA for a long time.
Yeah.
You talk to the general public, you'd be like, I do MMA. They'd be like, what? I do UFC. Oh, that, cool, So it's saying like jiu-jitsu, what is that? Is it Taekwondo? Like, people didn't know, and it didn't have the exposure it does now. But in the last 5 years, it's blowing up, and we all know, like, ESPN, and you constantly see on their highlights, and it's across the board, it's just blown up. Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, all of these things have started to get a really good foundation as popular sports. So I think that gives a lot of opportunity for the athletes to just be a combat sport athlete. You don't have to be tied down to I'm just an MMA fighter, I'm just a kickboxer. You can move and navigate different opportunities like that. So I think it's good. as long as you're interested. You know, we have a fight at the gym. Cody Jerome, he loves kickboxing, Muay Thai, and striking. So he, you know, there's no reason to do jiu-jitsu, but the avenues are open for all of the combat athletes, and I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting just as we're talking about this, because I talked recently to BKFC figurehead Dave Feldman, and he was saying that they were looking at doing an event next year, like even early next year in Canada, and just kind of like my knowledge of like the different athletic commissions, I would guess that likely that would probably happen around your neck of the woods in Alberta. So who knows, maybe some BKFC offers for the, you know, Progressive Fighting Academy lads sooner than later.
Yeah, that would be so cool, right? Like how exciting that would be.
Yeah, just what an exciting time in general. And I always love having you on the show to talk about the sport, man. I think you have a lot of cool insights and viewpoints and everything. So, yeah, I appreciate you coming on as always. But I also do want to be mindful of the rest of your schedule, too. So is there maybe anything you might want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up, Tom?
No, not much. Just other than, like, thank you for having me on. Same thing. I always enjoy talking with you, and I think you ask awesome questions, and it's just a fun style of interviews. So thank you for having me on, and then a thank you to all my sponsors and all my training partners. So my the gym, Progressive Fighting Academy, Anderson Goncalves Jiu-Jitsu, working with me all the time. In Calgary, working with Dynamic MMA. All the athletes around Calgary and Lethbridge that come out and help me. There's so many, so I won't list them all, but thank you to all of you guys who always help me out. Sponsors, Frontline Towing, always there for me. The Clever Sports app, download that if you're in any sport. If you're a parent of kids, like, it's such an awesome app for doing footage. You know, before technology like this, you had to buy a certain program. Only the NFL or only this NHL would really have these programs that made it really easy to take all the footage, all your video, and then go back and edit it and look at it and break down technique. But the Clever Sports app is a really fun way, and it's easy to use too, where you use it to edit and look at your technique and things like that. So we're using it a lot for right now for our jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai. But it started by Chris Versteeg and the Versteeg brothers and a few of their hockey partners as well, where they started it for hockey training. So right now it's mostly hockey athletes that use it, but it's such a good tool for any athlete, I think. If you're a parent of an athlete, it's just an awesome way to put on there what you're doing and go back and see, hey, how can we fine-tune this technique? You can draw on it. You can send it to your coach across the pond, like anywhere. You could set, like, for me, when I'm gone and away, I'll still send stuff to my coach, Brad, being like, hey, how does my shadow boxing look? Where do I need to do this? And he'll send a video back with a little drawing on it. Your elbow's down right here. You know, he'll be speaking on the video. He'll overlap the video with speech saying, you know, you're leaning over, your head's over your left foot. Like, you can just get so detail-orientated with how to fix technique, and I think that's a good thing for young athletes. So, Clever Sports app, that's a sponsor. I really appreciate having them. Yeah, and then Hard Training, Progressive Fighting Academy, they're always awesome to me. And that's it right now.
Yeah, some great shout-outs for sure, and a lot of great stuff on the go. And another great thing that's on the go is this Tim Smith fight, one I'm very excited for, and I think people that follow the Canadian scene share in that sentiment, and should be a great card with Unified MMA 46 going on September 23rd. I'll be peeping on UFC Fight Pass there, but if anyone's in the local area there, definitely check it out. It's always a good time. I've historically been there at a couple of those cards. Just
sold out.
Oh yeah, no, I did see that. Yeah, I guess I'm teasing the people a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Come on down. Break in and watch from the windows. Unfortunately, it's sold out. I'm still trying to see if I can hook up a couple extra tickets, but it seems like they're all legitimately gone.
I was saying, who knows? Maybe the scale Unified's at now. Maybe they've got like scalpers outside. Tickets, get your tickets.
Well, if you find out a few scalpers, let me know, because I got a couple family members that missed the beat. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, tune in on UFC Fight Pass, Unified 46. It's definitely going to be a fireworks show.
Yeah, for sure. Going to be a great one, no doubt. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show yet again. To reiterate, man, you enjoyed the rest of your day, and looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dylan. Have a great day.